Good morning and welcome to the Farm Show on Westplex Talk 1045. I'm your host, John Combest. It is Saturday, October 4th, 2025, and we have a packed show for you today. Right here in A Block, that's what we call our first segment. We'll be going through a number of events. We'll be talking about a scholarship program for youngsters. We're going to touch on the state fair. There are so many events going on. I'm not sure we're going to get through all of them in A Block, but we got to get to B Block. That's our second segment in which we will discuss some research brought to us by the folks from the Missouri Soybean Association and also the University of Missouri Extension. So if you grow beans, you'll definitely want to stick around for our second segment. And then in our third segment, we're going to talk about a major corporation that just announced a spinoff. What does it mean for farmers? What does it mean long term for the ag system? That's in our third segment today, which we call C Block. So let's get into the events. One of the things that I mention a lot is that I can't stand as a radio listener when there's big events and then you never hear from the guy on the radio or the gal on the radio what actually happened with the event. We're not going to do that to you here on the Farm Show. We're going to go talk about a big event from back in August that we touted a lot, and that's the Missouri State Fair. Now, last week, I teased an attendance number, and I said we'd have more information next week. Well, next week is now. The total state fair number was 329,000 people. That's not the only stat that the folks from the Missouri State Fair have for us today, though. More than 600 pounds of butter were used to create a sculpture titled Yeehaw, featuring a young boy enjoying a ride on the back of his show steer. The Missouri State Fair largest pumpkin weighed 525 pounds. The largest watermelon was 400 pounds. Missouri FFA members packed nearly 178,000 meals during the drive to feed kids. You can find more statistics about this year's Missouri State Fair by going to mostatefair.com. And importantly, the folks from the Missouri Department of Agriculture announced the dates of next year's state fair, August 13th through 23rd in Sedalia. Again, to learn more, you can always go to mostatefair.com or agriculture.mo.gov. Hey, happy pork month. Did you know that it's National Pork Month? If you're a pork producer, you're probably pretty hip to the fact that October is National Pork Month. And the 2025 Swine Institute will be taking place this month in Sedalia, October 25th. If you want to follow along at home to the agenda, you can go to mopork.com. Let's hit the highlights real quick. The Swine Institute is designed to inform Missouri industry leaders of the latest research and analysis impacting swine production. There will be no cost to attend the Institute. Registration, materials, and lunch are provided by the generous sponsors of the 2025 Swine Institute. It will be held at the Pork Place, specifically at Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia, Missouri. Here's the agenda. Sow Transition Nutrition from Dr. Amy Petrie. She's with the University of Missouri. And Dr. Vera Diana Daly. From there, it's on to improving heat stress resilience through genetic selection. That one's presented by Dr. Jay Johnson of the University of Missouri. Then it's on to Manure Tech Decision Support Tool. That's presented by Dr. Tang Lim of the University of Missouri. From there, the group moves on to TN visa workers in the U.S. swine industry. Experience, expectations, and strategies for management. That's presented by the University of Missouri's Magdiel Lopez. Then, before lunch, it's the National Pork Board update. That's brought to us by the National Pork Board's Dr. Brett Kaizen. And right before noon, 11:55, it's lunch. prepared by Bob and Patty Wheeler. After lunch, Ag Lending and Farm Economy, a session brought to us by Matt Hoister and Joe Abbott. They're with FCS Financial. That's followed by a session on hog barn space for finishers, presented by Jay Lampy of Growthland. Right after that, the folks from the National Pork Producers Council will give a trade update. Then it's on to tax regulations and estate planning. That's from Connie Hayden of Hayden and Colbert. That's followed by concluding remarks at 3 p.m. Again, that is the 2025 Swine Institute to be held at the Pork Place that's on the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia. You can find more information, the agenda, and registration information at mopork.com. Moving from swine to cattle, let's talk about a scholarship opportunity. You can find more information about the scholarship if you want to read along at home or in your car. Don't read in your car. That sounds dangerous. Maybe follow along at home by going to mocattle.org. The 2025 Missouri Cattlemen's Foundation scholarship applications are now available. Applications will close on October 13th, 2025. Here are a few application details that I found on the website. Applicants must be a Missouri resident and a current paid member of the Missouri Junior Cattlemen's Association, or the parent/legal guardian must be a current paid member of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association. The applicant must submit 3 letters of recommendation. 1 letter must be from a current Missouri Cattlemen's Association member, and letters must be uploaded online. Unless otherwise noted, the scholarships are $1,000 each. A little bit of history. Since 1997, Missouri Cattlemen Foundation has awarded over 815 scholarships worth a total of $801,500. The scholarship program is open to graduating high school seniors and current college students. Scholarships are awarded at the MCA Annual Convention and Trade Show in January. And speaking of the trade show, the 2026 Missouri Cattle Industry Convention and Trade Show will be held at Margaritaville Lake Resort in Osage Beach, Missouri, January 21st through 23rd, 2026. Cattle producers and industry partners from around the state will gather to discuss policy, learn about new technologies, catch up with old friends, and see some new faces along the way. Pre-registration will open later this month here in October. You can find it all at mocattle.org. Hey, that's not the only cattle event that we have to discuss today. Thanks to the folks at the Jefferson County Cattlemen's Association for sharing information on this event from the Missouri Forage and Grassland Council. Their event is November 3rd and 4th at the Lodge of the Four Seasons in Lake Ozark, Missouri. The Missouri Forage and Grassland Council, along with the Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, consists of forage and livestock producers, researchers, professors, agencies, industry representatives, legislators, and conservationists who share a common goal, speaking for the Missouri forage industry. Here's a few of the highlights from their upcoming event. On the first day, November 3rd, you'll hear from Erin Martin. She is the National Food is Medicine leader and founder of Fresh RX Oklahoma. She'll be speaking on the topic, Regenerative Food is Medicine, how local food systems can heal our health and economy. After lunch, you'll hear from Dr. Jamie T. Corder. He is the State Beef Genetics Extension Specialist from the University of Missouri. He'll be speaking on genetics to fit your environment. Afterwards, we'll hear from a professor at the University of Nebraska on integrating livestock into cropland. There'll be break and expo time before a producer panel called Adding Value to the Cull Cow. After that, It's networking expo and awards, and then dinner with Aaron Martin, the National Food as Medicine leader. The next day, on November 4th, you'll hear from Dr. Jesse Morrison, an assistant research professor at Mississippi State University, discussing native grasses. Jesse's followed by Caitlin Dozler, virtual fence program manager at the Center for Regenerative Agriculture. She'll be speaking about virtual fences. The day will conclude with a producer panel on direct marketing. Again, this will be held on November 3rd and 4th in Lake Ozark. Early bird registration is open until October 24th. It's $175. After October 24th, you'll pay $200. And an additional cattle note. A few weeks back, we had Allie Crick from the Missouri Beef Industry Council. Allie was promoting the upcoming Stockmanship and Stewardship event that was held at the beginning of last month at Missouri State University in Springfield. Allie has a summary of that event at the Missouri Cattlemen's Association October magazine. I'll give you a key number here. With more than 180 registered participants, the event exceeded expectations. Attendees represented a wide cross-section of the beef industry, from seasoned ranchers to students preparing to enter the field. You can find access to the latest edition, the October edition of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association magazine, by going to mocattle.org. Now, let's wrap up with a hot topic that's pretty controversial that we referenced last week on the show. Last week, we mentioned the fact that USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins was in Kansas City. I said we'd take a look at some of the media coverage, and you could expect to hear more about that visit and what Secretary Rollins had to say this week on the Farm Show. Among all the media coverage I saw, probably the most thorough coverage came from a reporter at DTN Progressive Farmer, Chris Clayton. If you've ever read about ag policy, chances are good you've read a piece from Chris Clayton. The hot topic is whether or not the USDA will end up giving direct payments to cattle producers. USDA Secretary Rollins says there's some big news coming. I'll let Chris Clayton tell the story. This piece can be found at dtnpf.com. Think dtnprogressivefarmer.com. Chris's headline is, Secretary offers few crop aid details. Chris begins, while recognizing that U.S. agriculture is, quote, under threat, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins told agricultural leaders that farming's future, quote, could not be brighter, unquote. In a wide-ranging speech, Rollins laid out an agenda for supporting crop producers while teasing plans to rebuild the U.S. cattle herd. In an immediate announcement, Rollins said that the final $2 billion under the Emergency Commodity Assistance Program, or ECAP, will be delivered within a week to producers. Chris goes on to describe the Ag Outlook Forum and where exactly Brooke Rollins spoke. In her remarks, Rollins placed a large share of blame for the current economic challenges on the Biden administration, noting the Biden administration didn't negotiate any trade deals, which led the agricultural deficit to balloon. At the same time, expenses have increased dramatically since the last Trump administration. Clayton continues with a quote from Rollins. We know that agriculture in our country is under threat. Clayton continues, she added later that trade disruptions have led to immediate consequences affecting a range of commodities. Quote, but we also know that as the president is looking at the long-term fix, the complete realignment of the world economy around American agriculture and American goods, that there are bills that are due this month as we move into harvest. There are loans that have to be secured in the next 8 to 12 weeks to plants for next year, that there are mouths to feed, and we have to make some difficult decisions right now. I do not have a silver bullet. End quote. Clayton continues The Wall Street Journal reported on September 25th that President Trump also suggested in an Oval Office event that an aid program for farmers could be coming soon. And as an aside, not in Chris Clayton's piece here, President Trump posted on social media this week that he would be meeting with the leader of China in 4 weeks to discuss soybeans and other row crops. Okay, back to Chris Clayton's piece. Clayton quotes Brooke Rollins as citing other trade deals that the president has made in recent months and ones that are still on the table. Clayton continues, Rollins also said she is going to become more vocal with the Federal Reserve to press for more interest rate reductions going forward. Here's her quote. You may or may not have heard President Trump talk about this, forcing all to borrow money at elevated interest rates. I'm not sure anyone feels this pain more than our farmers and ranchers. The Fed needs to keep lowering rates so farmers and rural communities can finally see relief, and I'll be talking about that as we move toward the next meeting of the Fed. Clayton continues, when it comes to fertilizer, fuel, and other inputs, Rollins noted fertilizer prices have increased 37% over the last 5 years. The high input prices have led USDA and the Department of Justice to sign a memorandum of understanding earlier this year to protect farmers and ranchers from higher input prices and ensure competitive supply chains. And with just a minute left in the segment, I want to touch on cattle industry plans. Clayton continues, Rollins also clarified plans announced last weekend to, quote, rebuild the American cattle supply, end quote. The statement was made in a news release about New World screwworm. It stated the Trump administration planned to, quote, incentivize, end quote, ranchers to expand the national cattle herd, which is now the smallest in 75 years. Okay, here's the meat of the story. The secretary said incentives would not include payments to cattle producers. There were a lot of immediate questions within the cattle industry over whether USDA would look to pay producers to hold back heifers to breed. Rollins made it clear that does not mean a payment program. Again, you can find this piece by Chris Clayton by going to dtntf.com. The headline is Secretary offers few crop aid details. So there you have it. No direct payments as it stands now to cattle producers. When we come back, research from the Missouri Soybean Association and the University of Missouri Extension that is of particular interest to soybean growers. You are listening to The Farm Show. That's Farm and Ranch Missouri, right here on Westplex Talk 104.5. We'll be right back.